As Americans, we work, drive, work. And we forget about our kids. Our kids are at school, and this is what they think of school.
I do not like the school system. It needs to change because I cannot relate to it.
Really?
The reason I don't like school is because simply I can't relate. Sorry.
Alright, the reason I don't like school is because I can't relate to it, you feel me? All the teachers are annoying, except for this one right here.
Don't like school because I do not relate to it. The books they have us read, it shows other lifestyles and other variations of lifestyles that are not connected to mine at all. I don't understand. It's not a good example of what happened to me in the real world. It's something that I cannot identify with.
And since our kids cannot relate to the school system, this is what they do all day in school. Play games. Games. And then when they get home, it's more games. So this is the education our kids get. As the unemployment rate climbs, as wages stagnate, our kids are playing games, which makes it hard for our youth growing up learning how to solve the problems that they're gonna face as adults. See, our children are being educated by the entertainment industry. So when they become adults, it's hard for them to have adult conversations and figure out adult problems. And this is really problematic when you're talking about black children, because black children are typically born to poor households. And if they're not given a good enough education, they won't understand that they can't figure out these problems individually. And it will be confusing to them when they see some black individuals get some money and some wealth. Because yes, of course there are black people with some money and some wealth, but collectively we do not have such things. And the only way any group of people, including black people, can make progress is collective struggle. The only reason that the entertainers that have experienced success have that success is because of collective struggle. Okay? The people that are succeeding in golf, tennis, basketball, football are only there because people before them have struggled and broken barriers. And that's the part of our education that we don't get, the collective struggle. Therefore, it's hard for any group of people to be strong when collectively they are weak. Our power is in how well we work well together, not against each other, and not how well we work individually. It's about a collective struggle, and that big part is left out because America is all about individual competitiveness. Everything seems to be set up for the individual to compete and succeed, but this is not how wealthy people act. Wealthy people are in organizations. If we look at the NBA and NFL, what are these things? These are collective organizations. The owners collectively work together. They collectively bargain. And this is what our kids have to learn. This is what adults have to learn. So we can start to work collectively.
Black people should be flying buildings all day long. We should be insurgents. We should be killing white families. But we're not. We're not. We're good, man. And we get treated like guy goes, you know, you're very shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I mean, stop. We're trying to work for this love that it ain't gonna happen. If you feel nigger, you could call it flowers and pudding. People, Mexicans all over the world. Yes. Are you racist? No. Racism is like Bigfoot. Like, we know it's here. I never seen it. Only racist I see is with a sheet on. But there's no functionally intelligent guys who walk around and go, I hate niggas, I hate spics, I hate chinks, but they're liars, man. It's like we're not gonna heal this thing until two things. One, black people gotta stop lying about how we feel, and white people gotta stop lying about how they feel.
No children in school are allowed to study race and racism. Therefore, conversations about race and racism confuse the youth. The youth think racism It's simply calling somebody a bad name because of their race, being mean to them because of their race, killing and hurting them because of their race. Now, that is a part of it, and then that is big, but the part that's left out is how institutions prevent black people from living a free life. Institutions that do not allow black people to study their own people from their people. Institutions that would prevent you from getting a loan so you could go to school. Prevent you from getting a loan to start a business. Prevent you from getting a loan to expand your business to hire more of your people. Loans that prevent you from getting a house so that you can build up equity and do what you want with it. Help your children out, start a business, expand a business, buy a franchise, buy land.
9/11, it's a different world, ain't it? And shock, just stunned. And it took that to make white folks realize that we're human beings. Yeah, you understand? You know, because they were so worried about us. America's so worried about black folks. They were so worried about the land niggas, they forgot about the sand niggas. Now, a lot of you are clapping, a lot of you house niggas are scared. Just, you gonna get us in trouble. No emotion, no reaction. You black, you live in America, you in trouble. I can't get you in no trouble. So worried about us, huh? And then the rumors started. They said it was black folks. It was black folks. Black folks did that. I knew there wasn't no black people. Ain't no niggas did that. We don't commit suicide. No. If that had been black people flying that plane, you'd have saw a whole bunch of parachutes. And do-rags. "9/11. And I want to thank, on behalf of black America, because I'm a black person, I want to thank white America. Thank you. Thank you, white America, for making us tough. Because we'll get through this terrorist stuff. White folks made us tough, because they've been terrorizing us for 500 years. Sicking dogs, putting water holes, lynching us. We used to terrorists. This ain't no big deal to us. I'm worried about white folks. I'm worried about my white friends. They ain't gonna make it through this. They're not used to this. I've lost 2 or 3 white friends. They've cracked up. They took them to the crazy house. They can't handle this. They asked me for my ID at least 5 times, dude. What the hell do they want from me? They can't handle this profiling. I'm opening up the school, how to be a nigga in America and survive. They're not gonna make it. Thank you, white folks, for making us tough. Because black folks will get through this, just like we did slavery. You real niggas know what I'm talking about, just like we got. You house niggas don't have a clue. But you real niggas know what I'm talking about. We will get through this, just like we got through slavery. We will hum our way through this. You real niggas know what I'm talking about. You know what? You feel me? White folks, don't try this at home by yourself. You might hurt yourself. You know we gonna get through this.
So talks about race and racism confuse our kids, and we need to help them see more clearly when it comes to race and racism so they can figure out problems related to race and racism and not be afraid to talk about them. We have to stop making everything taboo. And who is it that's telling us that something is taboo? If problems are facing your community, why would you choose not to talk about it? Why would you make your problems taboo? Doesn't make any sense.
Nothing's changed but the weather. It used to be overt, now it's covert. And Obama being in office, it makes it overt again. These white people can't help themselves. You see the things that are coming out of their mouths. They're saying stuff that's, white people are saying wild stuff. You listen to these white boys on these talk shows and these radio shows, they say whatever they feel. I mean, that one Dan Rather, this old tired butt, he's gonna say Obama can't sell watermelons? And Clinton's gonna say he would be bringing us his coffee? I mean, come on, white boy. It's too much for me. That's why I say what I feel. White folks got their freedom. I'm gonna be free, white, and 21 too. That's an old Southern expression. Free, white, and 21. That's what I wanna be.
So let's jump into the whole issue. Like, you're always in our top, every month you're in our top 10 most viewed clips. The piece that you did for us in 2008. It's got over 140,000 views, and
I'm in the top 10?
You're always in the top 10.
You're kidding.
For us.
I'm stunned.
Well, people have a lot of comments.
I just think I'm stunned. Well, thank you. I'm in the top 10. Okay, I'll accept that.
Most viewed, most commented for. And half the people use the message, the comments, to talk about how racist you are.
That I'm racist? Well, that's very funny. I can't be racist by definition. Look that up in the white folks dictionary. How can I be racist? I've never told anyone where to live. I've never told anyone what kind of jobs to have. I've never kept anyone from going to a school, out of a restaurant, or drinking from a fountain. I've never lynched anybody. So how can I be racist? How can I be racist? By definition, I can't be racist.
Well, I think what's happening is...
How can the slave be the master? That doesn't even make sense. I mean, that's someone that's telling you this or making that statement, whether they're black or white, they have to be totally insane. I can't be, by definition. Look up the definition of racism.
Well, I think what's happening in the world is a lot of younger people feel like they have no attachment to the past of America. They want to make that clear in their own different ways.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying that to you. But if I am racist, if I go along with that, then I learn from the best. I was taught by the best. If that's true, but I don't think that's true. I don't think I am racist. If I go along with that, then I learn from the best. So I was taught by the best. If that's true, but I don't think that's true. I don't think I can be.
Since our children have been separated from revolutionary thought, radical beliefs, radical heroes, then they're left with radical entertainers. So they get a political and economic education from an entertainment perspective. And this is who they look up to, which is fine because all people look up to anyone who's willing to die for their own principles, and that's what our children are doing. Just look at who they are looking up to, and we need to study that and not belittle them, okay? And we need to start working with our entertainers and giving them a more expansive political and economic education and a more expansive historical education. I'm always asking the youth questions, so I ask them, hey, why do you like the artists that you like and follow?
And of course, I can relate to him.
And I can relate to him.
Because I can relate to him and his lyrics are hard.
Tupac's my favorite artist because I can relate to him.
Music for the guy at the office, then Public Enemy is doing a bad job. But if they were doing their music for black people or for people who want to come to a better understanding of how things really are, then they did a good job. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to see the true picture. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if he feels uncomfortable. Because what about when I felt uncomfortable for 400 years? You know what I'm saying? Then now all of a sudden it's bad to talk about some real... Anytime somebody pulls a trigger or there's any kind of gunshot, everybody starts running for cover. But everybody's really doing all this shooting in the streets. You know what I'm saying? All this Iran-Contra stuff and that war, all that, that's violence to me. That's real violence. What we're talking about is fake violence. All this, when we're rapping, it happens in the streets, but us rapping about it is not the violence. And the movie about it is not the violence. You know what I'm saying? It's an adventure world that we're creating. What we're doing is using our brain to get out of the ghetto.
My favorite artist is NBA Youngboy because he's hard.
Are you still in school?
Nope.
Dropped out?
Yep. I got a dream to chase.
What grade did you drop out at night? And what was the reasoning behind it?
if I have a dream to say. Well, I'm chasing the dream. I want to rap. I don't want to focus on school. I feel that all I need to do is know how to talk and read.
My favorite artist is Kyle. Super duper Kyle.
Definitely have American History X vibes. Like, just,
I didn't know it was coming. Dude, the day I shaved my head. And
you didn't look like in the mirror once and been like, yeah, I look like bro with the curb stomp, bro. I look like curb stomp, dude.
Favorite artists are Tupac, Cannabis, Nasir, several other rappers. The reason why they're my favorite is because their lyrics are hard.
Nasir Jones, Nasty Nas, Nas Escobar, Nostradamus.
Fortunately, we have a lot of entertainers, including rappers, who are doing independent research. One such man is David Banner. And in this next clip, you're going to see him talking with Anthony Browder, who is the first African American to be funded by black people and actually do an archaeological excavation in Egypt, in Africa, which is amazing. And David Banner considers Anthony Browder a mentor, someone he looks up to, someone he appreciates. And this is what we have to get back to. We can have entertainers as people we look up to, as mentors, but we also must look to other people, such as Anthony Browder, to look up to and aspire to be. They should inspire us to be great as well as our entertainers.
You know, I would say an equivalent, a person who had the same amount of effect on me would be like a Malcolm, right? And Malcolm had transitioned before I was even born. You know, so to be able to even call you on the phone and get the level of information and the level of guidance, especially on enlightenment, bro, is very hard in these times, man. And I'm honored for you to be here.
Well, thank you, man. And I still remember the first call I got from you. It was near Christmas time, a number of years ago, and then just out the blue, man. You just called me, and we hit it off, man. And so there's no such thing as Europeology. There's no such thing as Spanishology. There's no such thing as Americanology. But there's Egyptology. There's Egyptology because Egypt is the oldest documented civilization known to mankind. It's the oldest continuously existing civilization on the planet. Over 3,000 years of African excellence. We have the first nation state in history. We have the first system of architecture, engineering, science, medicine. Everything that makes a civilization great began in Egypt. And oh, by the way, Egypt is in Africa. Don't let white folk fool you and think that it's somewhere in the Middle East. That's a lie that American Reporter made up in the early 20th century. You know, it was a geopolitical term in order to separate Egypt from Africa, because whoever controls the history of Egypt controls the history of the world. So we're fighting to reclaim our proper place in world history and human history.
Tell me if I'm correct about this, and if I'm not, correct me. Are you the first descendant of Africans, or are you the first African American male to do an excavation in Egypt?
I'm the first person of African ancestry to fund and fully participate in an archaeological excavation in Egypt, and we've been at it for 12 years. Okay. We're here in the burial chamber of Karakoum, which is some 28 feet below the floor of the tomb itself, which is some 40 feet below ground level. And we discovered this magnificent burial chamber last month in July. Floor to ceiling is approximately 7 feet. As you can tell, the chamber is filled with rubble. Unfortunately, it had already been robbed, probably by the notorious Rasool family. And we see all of this debris, stone, large pieces of stone, fragments.
How has that changed the course of your life?
Well, I never would imagine that a brother from the west side of Chicago would be funding an excavation on the West Bank of Luxor. Okay. You know, so it's like beyond my imagination. But as I reflect back on my life, man, everything that I've done
since I was born has been leading to this moment in time, and it's simply a matter of me being attuned to the ancestors and doing what I'm born to do, following the right folk. You mentioned Malcolm was a profound inspiration for you. My inspiration came in the form of Ivan Van Sertima.
Our children are continuously being taught now that Columbus discovered America. Through your work and research, you have found something to counter this. Can you set us all straight now on this story about Columbus discovering America?
Okay, I appeared before Congress on July the 7th of last year. In fact, there's a special which was to look at what the Christopher Columbus Bicentennial Commission was doing. There's going to be European types who had conquered the world, who had carved up Africa and taken over the Native American world. They wanted to claim that the world was asleep until they came, so that it was lying dormant until they discovered that other by Columbus. I came to establish quite clearly that Columbus did not discover America. That word is a word that should never be used, because there were visitors, important visitors, significant visits and contacts and voyages long before Columbus.
Images dominate us, and the image of Africa has been totally destroyed by recent discoveries. It's just that most people do not know those discoveries. And the discoveries are made by Euro-American scientists mainly. Peter Schmidt and Don Lavery, for example, discovered Africans were smelting steel 1,500 to 2,000 years ago. I'm going to use the conservative estimate, 1,500. They were smelting steel at a time when nobody in the world was smelting steel.
And using a one-state. John Henry Clark and Asa Hilliard. So it was like those three brothers were like my cornerstone.
Pioneer in the field of education in terms of revolutionizing the curriculum that is going on in this country, specifically related to African information in the curriculum. What was the philosophical premise for you even beginning in that area?
The primary presenting problem in the curriculum in the schools is either neglect, distortion, or falsehood. It's one of those three things with respect to the experience of people of African descent. Not just people of African descent, but people across the board, but it's acute with people of African descent. There are things that help to explain who we are that are never presented in the curriculum. And as a result, when we appear in the curriculum, we appear as fragments, we appear out of context, we appear inaccurately. The strongest statement that I can make is that we have a truth problem or a validity problem. And the reason I say that, the problem is sometimes defined by other people as, let's say, a self-esteem problem. Of course, we want to support kids' self-esteem, but in a way that takes us off the topic, to talk about self-esteem as the only reason for looking at the curriculum makes us ignore the fact that we've had this almost 400 years, but especially the last 200 years, extreme neglect, and it's...
What should we tell our children? What we have to tell our children is about the cycles that we've been through. We have to tell them that what is natural in any human group is to be whole. To be whole means to be in ma'at. It means to be in balance and harmony as a family, as an ethnic family, as well as a nuclear family. That's to be whole. That's part of what's natural. That's normal. That's how all people are when they're not faced by trouble. To tell them that they are divine. To tell them that they are creating. To tell them that they're connected and that they can be conscious and must be. And to tell them that they must develop character and to keep them informed. But how do you tell them? Irit Ma'at. You tell children things by doing what it is you want them to know. You cannot get them to learn anything sending them to somebody else hoping that they will fix your children. wholeness, those things that I was talking about there. There was a time before the trouble when we were whole. We can find it in the text. We can find what people were striving for in the text. You've heard that mentioned. And then the trouble. Tell them about trouble. Tell them about how trouble works. What happens to the family in trouble? What happens to the environment in trouble? What do politicians do to make trouble? At a certain point, I've written a summary of the structure of domination. There are 7 facets to it. One of them is to make sure people have no memory as a people. No collective memory that's true and real. Another is to make sure that people have no collective identity. They can have individual identity, not a collective identity. Another is to teach the people the superiority of their oppressor over themselves, culturally and intellectually and every other way. Another is to make sure you control the socialization process of the people you want to dominate. Why else would you destroy all the meta-nature and make us wait hundreds of years before somebody could painstaking to put it back together again so we could read the remnants of what was left that you hadn't already burned up? Why would you shut down the African schools that came into being out of slavery when they were better than the ones that you funded for them after that? Why would you do that? Why do the people who run African schools now that have the highest achievement in their district get fired, like Audrey Bullard?
They showed me what it is that a man is supposed to do, and I've been following in their footsteps. And so that led to me having this opportunity in 2008 to meet this woman, this Russian-born American-trained Egyptologist by the name of Alina Pishtakova, who had discovered these 2 25th Dynasty tombs, these 2 2,700-year-old tombs. And because she was born in Russia and didn't understand American racism, she couldn't get funding to continue the work on this tomb. And at this time, it was costing $40,000 a year. And so she used her own money to fund this excavation. She maxed out her credit cards, she maxed out her 401k. She was tapping into her daughter's college tuition when I met her. 2 years into the project, had run out of money and was about to shut it down. And she gave me a personal tour of the tomb, and I could hear Asa Hilliard in one ear, I could hear Dr. Clark in the other ear saying, Tony, you need to move on this. So I said, look, I'll raise the funds and we'll keep this thing going. So 12 years later, we have literally restored the history of the first 2 Kushite tombs built in Egypt. And in the process, walking in and out of this tomb, these 2 2,700-year-old tombs, man. And I've come to understand that they knew that there was no such thing as death. There was no such thing as death. There's only what the Africans refer to as the Rahim Misu, the repetition of the birth, that we come back, and that we've always come back. And the quality of life we experience when we come back is based on the quality of life that we experienced when we were here before. So it's all one continuum. And all of this information is there if you know how to read it. And when you really begin to understand what this truth is, then it makes all these other truths just disappear in the wind. This religious truth about heaven and hell, that stuff ain't real, man. It's all made up. It's all made up, and it's all driven by fear. It's all driven by fear. Once you understand the profound truth, then all these other belief systems just dissipate. And then it's a matter of how do you get this information to the people with the greatest need to know so that they can understand what this game is all about and then live their real lives.
How old were you when you first started testing the things that you believed in?
1977. 1977, so I would have been 26 years old. Earth, Wind & Fire had
To be to talk about From the Bridal File.
We can talk about that too. I mean, I don't mind.
But I promised you were going to be able to talk about what you want to talk about now. We said that we were going to talk about spirituality, right, and where you are spiritually. Can you explain that to us? As it's sort of hard to ask the question, to frame the question, because you have to have a point of reference.
No, I got a point of reference, man.
All right, let's go.
I got a point of reference. Life. We all got to deal with life. My son just died 2 weeks ago, right? And you know, this is my stepson. I hate using the word stepson. This is my daughter's brother. You remember my daughter, Mathis, right? And as I'm preparing her for his death, you know, he had a stroke 30 months ago and was hospitalized, paralyzed, was on dialysis. So I knew that he wasn't going to make it, and I knew that his quality of life was gone, and that his only way out was death. And that death was not the end. Death is a doorway to the next life. And that we had to prepare ourselves to release him for his sake. And so it's about us understanding that there is life after life. And the only reason I can have this quality of conversation with my daughter is because she's been with me in this tomb for the last 10 years. We've been in these burial chambers, man, finding some incredible things, having very serious daddy-daughter conversations about how is it that me, I'm not a licensed Egyptologist, I'm not an archaeologist, but how is it that I'm here finding these things? I mean, what is it that my life dictated that I follow this path and that she's here following this path with me, you know? So understanding to me what life is all about. And this is a continuation of the process because my mother passed 5 years ago, right? And my mother passed at home. It was home hospice. You know, she didn't want to be in the hospital dying. And so my daughter and I were there caring for her last weeks of life, and we were at her bedside when she took her last breath, you know, and to be able to prepare the way for her soul based on what I know from studying African history, that you know, when your physical body expires, your soul goes on to another level. And there's specific things that you can do in order to prepare the soul to leave the body and go to this place. You know, you see in the Egyptian papyri or what have you, this scene of the weighing of the soul, where the soul function on another level and create the world that we were born to create. I can put that in the browser file. But you know, that's where my head is going. And yeah, so come on, ask me something, man. I'm here. Come on, brother.
I feel like y'all was
that's what I was doing.
I don't know why. So, what, Regina?
I was gonna say I do have a question.
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
Browder files, you mentioned about whoever controls the present controls everything. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a quote from George Orwell. George Orwell wrote in 1984, right? Whoever controls the present controls the past. Whoever controls the past, wait, hold on.
Whoever controls the past controls the future. Whoever controls the present controls the past.
So the most important time in history is the present moment, because the present moment connects you to everything that was and everything that will be. Now, the key thing about that statement, George Orwell wrote that book. That was a statement from his book 1984. 1984 was written by George Orwell, a British writer, science fiction writer, in 1947. And the book was originally entitled 1948. And it was about this dystopian world that he saw Europe coming into and the world coming into right after World War II. And so his publisher said, no, man, this book is too depressing. You can't, no, this is not gonna work. Transpose the last two numbers, make it about the future, then it becomes something that people can relate to. Why? Because people are afraid to deal with the present. But if you separate them from the present moment, and either you deal with the past or into the future, they now can internalize that information, right? So if you fast forward to George Lucas, Star Wars, how does every Star Wars movie begin? How does every Star Wars movie begin?
With a date, right?
Come on, give me. I mean, just
that whole rundown.
Yeah.
So what's the first line you see in every Star Wars film?
Not far in the future.
Close.
Uh-oh.
What is it?
I don't know.
No. All right, let me give it to y'all.
Give it to
y'all
us,
ain't
please.
watching movies.
And I'm a Star Wars fan.
Every Star Wars movie, a long time ago in a galaxy far,
far away.
See, you know it.
You're right.
Now, just think about this. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then you see a spaceship, then you see robots, and you see all this, and you think you're dealing with the future. But no, this happened a long time ago in the past, in a galaxy far, far away. So it's psychological displacement, right? So it's to separate you from the present moment and talk about the same things you're dealing with right now in a different context, so you can relate to it, right? You can deal with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and these forces of evil.
And they give you different color skin, so you won't feel so bad about watching them cut each other.
Absolutely.
And shoot each other.
But dig this though. That whole story of Star Wars is the story of ancient Kemet. That whole story of Star Wars is the story of Heru, Asar, and Aset. George Lucas got that from Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, right? Who wrote about the ancient Kemetic story of Asar, Aset, and Heru is the foundational myth of humanity. And so George Lucas was a philosophy major in college when he read Joseph Campbell, and then when he realized the power of philosophy and the power of myth, he said, I'm going into films because I can use films to tell stories about myths. And that's when he did this Star Wars thing, and he's taken everybody to another level, man. So it's about separating people from the present moment and then telling a story that is old as time, right? And these stories are African stories. Everybody is built their fortunes on the back of Africa, and African people don't even realize it.
And the descendants of Africans run away from it.
Yeah, because we've been socialized to love the master, love our oppressor. But once we know our real story, then it changes the game, man. It changes everything.
What do you think are some of the some practical steps that we can take to start moving in that direction?
A basic step is to love yourself. We've been taught to hate ourselves, you know. And what has happened to us is, well, God, that's a good question, man. That's a good question. All right, well, look. There's this new body of science called epigenetics, right? And that, you mentioned DNA. We carry our DNA, and scientists can take one cell from anywhere in your body and clone another you. So that means the essence of everything that we are is in every part of our body, right? And, you know, they talk about cloning and all these other things, but what they don't talk about is that within that DNA is the memory of all of your ancestors that you carry around in your body. So you're carrying the memory of all of your ancestors going back 10, 15, 20, 30,000 years. And that when you're in a proper state of alignment and attunement with your real self, then those ancestors will speak to you. They will inspire you. They will drop knowledge on you. And the idea is just...
History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells of people where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most important, history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must be. The relationship of history to the people is the same as the relationship of a mother to her child.
As Dr. John Henry Clarke said, history is what we use to tell the political and cultural time of the day. But since we and our children are not educated on culture, politics, economics, philosophy, sociology, we don't know what time it is. And we are confused by many things, especially politics. And one thing we have to come to understand is that politics is everything. There's nothing that's not political. Look at your schools. Schools are government institutions. The public ones are, including charter schools. So they're the most political thing there can be. And no matter what you name, it's on land that is zoned and regulated by the government. Your houses are zoned for residential, or if you purchased a apartment building, that was zoned for a commercial apartment building. There's nothing that's not political. Even if you look at the definition, it includes all the complex interactions of humans, which proves my point that everything is political. And if you don't look at the world that way, you're going to be confused, and our youth will be confused because everything is political.
Can only exist in a social context. In a social context that is political. I shouldn't say politicized because the social context is automatically political, but we'll put this up here. Politicized social context. There's no such thing as a people. There's no such thing as a word that you say that's not political. There's no such thing as an act that you do that's not political. You are socialized within a particular political context. And all of the definitions and all of the words and all of the gestures, all of the ideas, all the ideals, all of those are political. And they follow the interests and the agenda of the mind that controls that reality. The mind that formed that reality, the mind that created that reality. This is not a reality that we created. So the policies of this reality do not reflect our interests. They reflect the opposite of our interests.
And I want to read it again. It's from Francis Cress Welsing. And it talks about the outcome of such a situation. And Francis Cress Welsing, in the ISIS paper, she will be reading. Black children are our most valuable possession and our greatest potential resource. Any meaningful discussion of the survival or the future of black people must be predicated upon black people's plans for the maximal development of all black children. Children are the only future of any people. If the children's lives are squandered, and if the children of a people are not fully developed at whatever cost and sacrifice, the people will have consigned themselves to a certain death.
You see, this is why education is so important. You look at the history of education in this country, you will see people fighting and dying for education. It's because it secures the survival of a people. If we do not educate our kids, like Baba Baruti said, we're going to experience a certain type of death. And as black people, we've been experiencing all different types of death, which means we have to take education seriously, especially the education of our youth, because the youth hold the future in their hands. So it's up to us as older people to educate ourselves so we can pass down that knowledge so that we can continue to thrive collectively, not individually. We have to lose this individualistic, materialistic nature that has been forced upon us so that we can grow collectively and thrive collectively. We want to get out of survival mode. So that's why I made this video, because education is to help us thrive, not just survive. It's to survive and thrive. So I'm gonna change it. Education is not just to secure the survival, but to ensure that we thrive and live meaningful, purposeful lives that are free and that we enjoy. That's what we want, not just to survive. We want to get out of survival mode. So again, I'm Rodney Smith, aka Heavy Hooks, and this is Radical Education.